Hello everyone and welcome to the qualifying session for the first GT Open Cup race of the weekend at the Hungaroring. It is very warm indeed at the circuit just to the northeast of Budapest. We have got just under 20 minutes left on the clock for the session and 13 cars heading out to decide how they will start this afternoon's race. I'm Keith Collentine to talk you through today's action. We have got a mix of different GT cars heading out onto the circuit. Not quite as high downforce as Aero Trim, as you may know from the GT International Open Series, but still some very challenging and spectacular cars and some excellent accessible racing for the Pro and Am drivers in this series. Looking at the moment at that is the number 22 car, the Nicky Leutwiler car that has enjoyed a lot of success early on in the season, the Porsche 991 heading out. We've got a few Porsches out in the field. There is Gerard Tremblay heading out to qualify his Porsche 991, but we've got a varied field in the GT Open Cup with Mercedes and Audi and Lamborghini and McLaren all represented as well. So if you like your GT Cup action varied with different marques participating, this is very much the series for you. Now, of course, as we always say at the Hungaroring, when it gets down to the racing action, overtaking is very difficult indeed, and that makes qualifying for everyone out on the track, including the likes of Mark de Fulgenico. You're looking out at the moment in his McLaren 570S. That makes starting position all the more important. It is, of course, a rolling start for these cars when we get to the race later on today, rather than the standing start, so that makes the number of positions you can gain from the start a little bit harder to come by, and again that just adds to the importance of qualifying well. Macho Basso in the sole Mercedes AMG, one of two Mercedes AMG GTRs out in the field, coming around to begin his qualifying effort, and as usual we can expect it to just take a few minutes for the drivers to build up, play their hands in and start delivering the lap times around this 4.3 kilometer Hungaroring circuit. But Nicky Leutwiler, very much one of the drivers to keep a close eye on in this session. It should be said that if you're new to the GT Cup Open, most of the cars are shared by two drivers, and there'll be a mandatory pit stop in this afternoon's 1 hour race for them to switch over between them. But to take into account the slightly fluid nature of GT racing, we do also have a couple of single driver entries this weekend, Leutwiler's car being one of them. And of course, different arrangements are made for them as far as the driver stop changes go in the afternoon's race. But Leutwiler has got the car to himself. Most of the 13 car entries in the field are shared by two different drivers. But Leutwiler not on a pushing lap at the moment. He rounds turn 4, which is one of the particularly quick and challenging corners around the Hungaroring. Clearly not pushing the track limits to the limit at the moment. That is one of the Theo Martin run McLarens with Guillaume Peugeot at the wheel in the middle of the Hungaroring, and just working those tyres a little bit, pumping the brakes and helping to generate those all-important higher tyre temperatures, get a little bit of heat into the brakes as well, to ensure that when he does start leaning on the car properly for a full pushing lap, he'll be able to get the best out of it. Just weaving ever so slightly side to side as he comes into the final sector of the lap. Really, the first and the third sectors at the Hungaroring are much of a muchness, with long straights leading into fairly simple hairpins, but the middle sector is a different proposition entirely, with lots of complicated interlinked corners that really demands a lot from the drivers in terms of their driving approach. That's Manel Caqueda, as you've just seen in the Audi R8, run by Vapora Motorsport. He's in the final sector of the lap now, the long left-hander that brings the drivers towards a slightly longer, in fact, right-hander, with the pit lane entrance on the inside, but he passes that by as he comes round to set a lap. We've got the first times beginning to appear on the board at the moment, and they are in the region of 2 to 3 seconds off the best that we've seen so far. Glauco Solieri setting the best time to begin with in the Antonelli Motorsport Lamborghini Huracan. He goes top with a 1 minute 52.015, and Mark De Fulgenico slots into second place. We're looking at Solieri at the moment. De Fulgenico within 1 second of his rival at the top of the times, but still very much early days for these drivers, just 5 minutes into this session. Solieri running a little bit wide there at the penultimate corner, having gone fastest of all in the first sector on this lap. I think that may well have spoiled his run a bit. Victor Bloujean, however, is pressing on in his Porsche 991, currently third fastest. And I tell a lie, Solieri in fact did improve his time, a 1:51.215, moves the mark for pole position out to 1.7 seconds ahead of De Fulgenico, as Bloujean improves though and slots into second place, 0.7 of a second away in his Porsche 991. So second place for him. And we have an advisory that Solieri is having his lap time deleted for straying beyond track limits. So that time that's currently top, the 1:51.215, will be deleted. And is that going to drop him down into second position, as Solieri again gets a little bit wide at turn 4, where he's just had his lap time deleted already. So we'll wait for the timing screens to update on that one. And sure enough, now that that's been done, that moves Victor Bloujean up to provisional pole position, less than 1/10 of a second quicker than Solieri. But that is then rendered moot because Nicky Leutwiler has gone quicker than the pair of them in his Porsche, almost 0.2 of a second faster. So move the Leutwiler pole position Porsche up into provisional pole position. Not an unfamiliar place for him so far this season, with a lap of 1:51.720. I think what we've seen already from Solieri is that if he strings together a clean lap, he's definitely got the ability to challenge that. But I think we could see these lap times drop a little bit more as well. We have seen quicker lap times already so far this weekend, but of course it is starting to get pretty hot out there now, and that always limits just how quickly the drivers are able to go. Edoardo Liberati is out there in the Lamborghini Huracan. We're taking a look at him now. Currently 13th out of the 13 drivers, but improving in a big way. Fastest of all through the first 2 sectors. So Liberati making a bid for pole position, as Solieri goes quickest of all with a 1:50.138, and sure enough, 1.5 seconds quicker than Nicky Leutwiler. A really big improvement there by Solieri. But what is Liberati going to have as he accelerates out of the final corner? The Lamborghini does indeed go quickest, and by a huge margin, a 1:48.688, 1.4 seconds quicker than Glauco Solieri. So Edoardo Liberati, we're looking at him right now, heads the times for the time being. We're just approaching the halfway point in this session. It's Edoardo Liberati in his Lamborghini Huracan ahead of Glauco Solieri in another of the 2 Lamborghini Huracans, but only until the end of that sentence, I'm afraid, because Nicky Leutwiler has improved again and gone up to second fastest. So it's Liberati from Leutwiler, from Bloujean at the top 3, and tyres squealing for Edoardo Liberati as he tackles that quick and unsighted left-hander at turn 4. Keeps the car very neatly just within the boundaries of the track. That is the key to nailing a super quick lap around the Hungaroring. Stray beyond the bounds of the track limits and you'll have your time deleted. But Liberati, his time looks as good on the timing screens as it does on the cameras, because he's gone quickest of everybody through the first sector. So he is on course now to move that pole position target even further away. And actually, as a couple of his rivals behind him have had lap times deleted, he's currently on provisional pole by 2.4 seconds. So if he does carry this improvement through to the end of the lap, and he has actually just dipped off slightly in the middle part of the lap, nonetheless, he could end up quite a long way ahead indeed. Glauco Solieri has just moved up into second place of Nicky Leutwiler. Victor Bloujean in fourth place. Here comes Edoardo Liberati out of the final corner, looking for another improvement in the Lamborghini. And it is indeed a 1:47.960. He is 2.2 seconds now ahead of Solieri. So Liberati really looking nice and hooked up in that Lamborghini Huracan. A little bit of a correction at the exit of the chicane, but no one within 2 seconds at the moment. That may well have been where he lost that chunk of time in the middle part of the lap, because the first and the third sectors were quickest of everybody so far. Mark Dufalgenko has just had another lap deleted. He slips down into 6th position. But in fact, the previous time that he had would have left him in 6th place anyway, so having the lap time deleted has not made a difference to his position as things stand. But does anyone have anything for Edoardo Liberati to move into the second half of this session? Here is someone who could. This is Nicky Leutwiler, again in the Porsche, currently 3rd fastest. Just posted a nice consistent improvement with personal best times in all 3 sectors, but still a big chunk of time away from Liberati, 2.7 seconds away. And Solieri up in 2nd position in another Lamborghini Huracan. Clearly, the Lamborghini's enjoying the Hungaroring at the moment, as Carlo Curti goes up, Rodolfo Toni goes up in another of the Lamborghini Huracans into 5th position for Vincenzo Sospiri Racing with a 1:51.834, but that is 3.8 seconds off the time Liberati has done. And Liberati, with his 1:47.960, is not only the only driver in the 1:47s, is the only driver to have lapped the track in under 1:50 so far. So that is a pretty extraordinary effort indeed, as we get a replay of Manuel Caqueda heading into the gravel briefly at the chicane in his Audi R8 and rejoin the track again. So we've still got drivers out there trying to improve at the moment. Nicky Leutwiler is on another improving lap with personal best times in the 1st and 2nd sectors, as Mark Dufalgenko has had another warning for track limits, having already lost times both of them. Leutwiler, the quickest driver out on track at the moment, with Liberati and Solieri 1st and 2nd fastest, both in the pits right now. Leutwiler comes by and it's a 1:50.645, which keeps him in 3rd place. He is 0.4 of a second away from 2nd. That is Carlo Curti, who was in 4th place, but has just been bumped down following an improvement from Manuel Caqueda, who goes up into 4th. So Carlo Curti in the Tsunami Run Porsche 991, 5th place at the moment. But as he got an improvement, he clouts the 2nd part of the curb at the chicane. He gets the car turned in quite nicely into turn 6, and now the corners come at them one after another. Uses almost the full track width as he comes into turn 10. Turn 11 is very quick indeed, and the runoff area is extremely inviting, but he gives it plenty of respect as he heads towards the end of the lap. Now it's the turn of the Mercedes to tackle this final part of the lap, with Guillaume Reichel at the wheel, braking as he begins his run through the final sector. He's not on course for an improvement at the moment, and not really maximising the track on the way into the penultimate corner, so this may just be a build lap at the moment, or possibly even an in-lap. Indeed, it is an in-lap. So in comes Reichel, currently down in 12th place out of the 13 cars, but with quite a comfortable gap to Gerard Tremblay behind. So who is improving out on the track at the moment? Victor Bloujon has gone up into 5th place with a 1:51.224. That has moved Rodolfo Toni down, but Toni is on an improving lap at the moment as well, and has just done a personal best in the 1st sector in his Lamborghini Huracan. As we have a look now at Nacho Basso in another of the Mercedes out on the track. Basso currently down in 9th place, but with 5 minutes remaining has got a chance to move that car a little bit further up the order. There's not a great deal of competition going on for pole position right now, though. It's still Edoardo Liberati a full 2 seconds ahead. Here is Rodolfo Toni coming towards the end of his lap. Not been a great run through the middle sector after a personal best in the first sector. But is it going to be enough to move Tony up from his current 7th position? He accelerates out of the final corner and by the start-finish line in front of me, and does improve in the final sector of the lap as well, but is just shy of improving his grid position by a mere 0.07 of a second. So Rodolfo Tony stays in 7th place for now. And actually that has now become 6th place because Manuel Caqueda has had a lap time deleted for exceeding the track limits at turn 11. That's the really quick right-hander at the end of the 2nd sector. Rachel then moving down, Caqueda then moving down into 12th place. So that is a pretty significant drop of places for Caqueda, who was up in 5th place earlier on before having that time deleted, and has now got to do the hard work all over again. Oh, and Victor Bloujon has posted an improvement for 2nd place in the Porsche. A 150.119, however, still leaves him more than 2 seconds off Edoardo Liberati. So no one getting close to Liberati at the moment. We watch Guillaume Peugeot tackling the chicane in his McLaren, and a really, really big bite of the curb in the left-hand part of the chicane there, really throwing the car offline as he comes out. So Bloujon has gone up into 2nd place in his Porsche 991, which disrupts what was previously an all Lamborghini Huracan front row of the grid. But we're now watching Marco Basso in the Mercedes again, teeing up the car quite nicely for turn 3. Basso just coming towards the end of the first sector now and doesn't improve in the first sector. 2 drivers who are improving, however, is Victor Bloujon in 2nd place and Rodolfo Tony currently in 6th position. Currently in 5th position, actually, as he completes his lap and posts a 151.610. So if it's not close in the battle for overall honours, where Liberati is 2 seconds clear, it is super close in the battles for the 2nd and the 3rd rows of the grid. In fact, the drivers in 3rd, 4th, 5th covered by less than a 1/10 of a second as Bloujon comes towards the end of his lap. He was quickest in the, personal best rather in the first sector. Not quicker in the middle part of the lap, but has he got some more time to gain in the final few corners? Out comes Bloujon. He's got a car a little bit ahead of him. It's not going to give him much in the way of a tow, I expect, however, and he doesn't improve his lap time either, so he stays in 2nd place. And with just over 2 minutes left, is there anyone else out there who can improve? Liberati, our provisional pole sitter, doesn't appear to believe that he can improve because he is staying in the pits for the time being. And as the clock ticks down, I don't think Liberati, our provisional pole sitter, is going to be out on the track making a bid to improve his lap time. And sure enough, I think he has decided that that is the best he's going to be able to get out of his car. So who else out there can improve? Well, Victor Bloujon in 2nd place still believes he can. He does another personal best time in the first sector. We've seen him do that once already, however. It's in the middle part of the lap where he needs to improve. Guillaume Peugeot down in 10th place now, maybe in a spot of bother because the team manager for the Teo Martin car has been requested to report to race control. There's Bloujon still in 2nd place ahead of Solieri and Leutwiler. Manuel Caqueda has now improved back up into that 5th position with a 151.476. Had that lap time deleted before. Let's see if that one stands. And Rodolfo Tony behind him has also improved to a 151.550 for 6th place. We're watching Victor Bloujon currently 2nd and again struggling to find a lap time improvement in that tricky middle part of the lap. I just wonder if with the heat, with the sun beating down and the track warming up, whether the drivers are just finding it too hard to find any lap time improvement in that middle part of the lap. And Bloujon, tiny little bit of exit oversteer as he comes out of the final corner and drives towards the line, and it is not an improvement for him. He's over a second off his previous best time. The lap time improvements are becoming further and fewer between, or fewer and farther between, as Joan Vignes is one of few drivers to post a better time, going up into 8th place. And to be fair, really, of the few drivers out on the track at the moment, many of them are indeed improving. However, not included among them are Liberati and Solieri, who've stayed in the pits for this final run as the checkered flag comes out and the drivers now complete their final runs. There'll be no improvement from Edoardo Liberati or from Glauco Solieri. Victor Blujean in second place is on a lap at the moment, but not quicker in the first sector. So I think our battle for pole position, as it has seemed for some minutes, is done and dusted before we get right down to the business end of qualifying. We have got Rodolfo Toni currently 6th place, improving at the moment. He only needs to find 7/100th of a second to move up a position, and he has gone. He's done a personal best in the second and the third sectors and comes by with a 1:51.644, so it's not an improvement. He lost too much time in the first part of the lap, so he stays in 6th place. Joan Vignes is one of few drivers still out setting a lap time. In fact, this is going to be the last driver, I think, with a serious chance of improving, having done their personal best sectors in the first and second sectors. And Rodolfo Toni has just had that lap time deleted for a track limits violation, but it doesn't matter because it wasn't an improvement anyway. Here comes Vignes, though, through the final 2 sectors, currently in 8th position, needs to find 4/10ths of a second to move up a place. So if it's been a good enough lap, they may have found enough to do that. And out of the final corner comes Vignes and drives the line. It is an improvement indeed, up into 6th position with his final effort of the session, and that puts them in 6th place with a 1:51.540, displacing Rodolfo Toni by just 100th of a second. So there is our top 3. Glauco Solieri spent most of the final minutes of the session in the pits. Takes 3rd with a 1:50.206. Victor Blujean ran to the end, and a 1:50.119 nets 2nd place for the Porsche 991 driver. But after that superb run early in the session, and staying in the pits for most of the rest, was Edoardo Liberati with a 1:47.960. Let's hear what he's got to say down in the pits.
Edoardo Liberati, pole position here at Hungaroring, the 2nd in the year. All good?
Yeah, all good. Car was handling very well, so we had a very good qualifying. Despite the problem we had in free practice yesterday, we couldn't drive. I did like 2 laps in free practice, so I'm pretty happy of the performance.
And of course, here the pole position is important.
Yeah, it's very important because in Hungaroring it's pretty difficult to overtake, so it's really important to stand in the front.
Warm weather, will that affect the race?
For sure, we need to take care of the tires, especially. It's very high degradation in Hungaroring usually, plus the heat. So we really need to be careful on tires at the beginning of the race.
Well done. All the best for later.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, Edoardo Liberati, justifiably very pleased with his work so far, putting him on pole position by a very comfortable margin indeed, over 2 seconds ahead of Victor Blujean. Glauco Solieri puts the 2nd Lamborghini Huracan in the top 3 ahead of Nicky Leutwiler. Manel Caqueda for Baparo Motorsport joins his teammate Joan Vignes on the 3rd row of the grid with a 1:51.476. Some very, very close times there. Rodolfo Toni getting the rough end of that one, missing out on 5th place, 2 positions up by just 1/10 of a second with a 1:51.550, ahead of Carlo Curti, Marco Fulgenico and Marco Basso. And then on row 6 of the grid, we'll have Guillaume Peugeot and Guillaume Reschi, followed by Gerard Tremblay at the back. Thank you very much for joining us. Do join us later on at 1:45 European time for the first race of the weekend for the GT Cup Open from the Hungaroring. Until then, I've been Keith Collentine. Thank you very much for joining us.